How are you? Good? Today is the last part of our series called Relationship Goals. And somebody was saying to me, finally, it's the last part of that series because enough with the couples therapy. That person was saying that's maybe something more for other conversations and for a workshop. Can we go back to preaching the gospel on Sunday mornings? May I remind you that marriage is God's favorite illustration to showcase the gospel and the love of God. And the reason why we're doing this series is not just so that we get better in each other's relationships, but also that we start to understand relationships in the first place, because the more we understand relationships, the more we understand the love of God that He has for us. Okay? So hopefully you're in it with me for one more round of this series. Yeah? Cool. I thank you for your enthusiasm. Today I want to talk about a marriage worth fighting for. Okay, so we've talked about all kinds of things in this series, and if you've missed it, you can catch up on YouTube or Spotify. But today, for the last part, I do want to talk about marriage, partly because last Friday my wife and I celebrated our 16th anniversary in our marriage. Yes, and she's still with me. Bam, yes. Yeah, somebody asked me, what's marriage like? And I think, honestly, I can say it's been real for the last 16 years. We've had seasons, like all of us. We've had seasons that have been rich and joy-giving, and we've had other seasons that have been extremely painful and tearing, yeah? And it's been real. Definitely it has been a real experience. I have contributed lots of mistakes and lots of failures to our marriage, and every time Jenny responded to any of those failures with, but I'm still here. I'm still here. And she's still here. I don't understand why, but she's still here. And Jenny's sitting over there, but I just want to, said it in the first service, she's not even listening. It's one of those. Jenny, I want to say thank you for 16 years of always making it easy for me to come home. Yeah? Yes. Oh, she hates this. She hates this. She hates this. She hates it when I refer to her as my first wife, but it's true, she is my first wife. Today, I want to share some hope with couples here, with married couples here. Maybe you are married and your marriage is at the moment hanging on by a thread, and that thread is on fire even. Yeah. Maybe you are here and you are single. Or let me start there. Maybe you're here and you are newly engaged. That's a couple of you, at least, right? A few of you are just engaged and you're preparing to get married. And I'm glad you are here because today, I hope you pay attention to what's waiting for you, okay? Maybe you're here today and you've been painfully divorced. And today, maybe you're thinking, I shouldn't have come today. This is just going to remind me of a lot of pain in my life. I honor you for being here. I'm glad you are here. You are welcome here, okay? And we believe in this church. We believe that we have a God of grace and a God of restoration. And we believe your story is not over yet, okay? I want to just say this as well. And maybe you're here and you're single and you're thinking, this last week was good, how to find a partner. Today it's all about the married people and maybe it's not so much for me. I want to say to you, the best thing you can do while you are single is trying to figure out what you want. Okay? And so think and listen carefully today. So you start thinking about what do I want in a possible future love and a future marriage in my life. Okay? So hopefully there's something in there for all of us today. I have discovered, and that's my first thing on the screen if you want to write it down, anyone can tie the knot. Anyone can tie, that's what we say about getting married. Anyone can tie the knot, but it takes grace and commitment to tighten the knot. Okay, it's one thing to tie a knot, it's another thing to tighten the knot. Tying a knot is what happens when you get married, when you say I do, when you say yes to one another. That's tying the knot. Marriage, not the wedding day, but marriage is when you tighten the knot. And I've talked to and seen a lot of young couples who are spending a lot of time and energy in preparing for their wedding day. I need to switch this off, don't I? This is causing wind here, unfortunately. right? It's better. I've seen a lot of couples who are investing lots of time and energy to prepare for their wedding day, but they don't spend enough time to prepare for the marriage that follows right after, okay? Jenny and I made that mistake, by the way. For the first year of our marriage, we were, like before we got married, we focused a lot about the wedding day, and I believe we had a wonderful wedding day. And then we went on a honeymoon, and when we came back, and suddenly like, oh, but now we're married. Oh, and now I'm living with a girl, and there's all kinds of, how do you call these little clips you guys put in your hair? Like, they're everywhere. Like, and there's loads of lotions and shampoos. Like, why there's so much stuff in the bathroom? Like, a guy has a toothbrush and a shampoo. That's all we really need, right? Suddenly there's loads of stuff. And like, I never lived with a girl before. I thought it was very confusing. In our first year of marriage, we really fought a lot with each other. And I've realized I've married a sinner, and she realized she married an even bigger one. Okay? And we needed to come to terms with that. And there was lots of arguments about just expectations that we both brought into the marriage. Some of those were unrealistic expectations. Others were unexpressed expectations. We just assumed you knew that's what I wanted, and that's why we got in trouble. And so we had a lot of, it took us about a year to kind of, find our groove a little bit. I would say today, we've been married for 16 years, 15 happy years. Okay, the first year was quite rough because we prepared a lot for the wedding day, for tying the knot, and we weren't prepared to tighten the knot in marriage. Okay, some of you, when you hear that story, our story of it being a struggle, maybe what you want to do with the knot is you want to avoid the knot. That's what some people want to do. You want to avoid the knot because you've heard so many stories, maybe even had stories in your own, maybe parents or something, where marriage did not work out. And you're saying, I don't even know if I believe in marriage. I don't think it ever actually works. I've never really seen it work. I want to avoid the knot. Others of you are maybe saying, okay, I tied the knot, but now it's just, okay, I can endure the knot. We've kind of come to an agreement and an arrangement where we're basically roommates with each other, but we can endure each other. You're not really enjoying it. You can endure the knot. Others of you are in a place where you secretly regret the knot. Where you say, if you're really honest, you wouldn't say this out loud, but you know in your heart, if you could do it again, you wouldn't. And maybe you even secretly go on Facebook or Instagram and look up your ex and it's like, oh, what would happen if I would have married her? Yeah, you regret the knot. Others of you, you like to study and analyze the knot, and you read a lot of books and you listen to a lot of podcasts on marriage. And it's really annoying for your spouse because your spouse married you, and now your spouse has a marriage counselor as a husband or a wife, and it's really frustrating when you have an expert in the house. Yeah. Other people here, maybe you want to untie the knot, where you're saying it just doesn't work anymore. We've tied the knot, it doesn't work anymore. Let's just untie the knot. It doesn't work for me anymore. We ran out of love. So let's untie the knot. We ran out of love. That is quite foolish. Can I just say this? That's like saying, my car ran out of gas, therefore I'm going to sell the car. Nobody would do that. What you need to do when your car ran out of gas is you need to refuel the car. Okay? The same is true in your marriage. When you run out of love, what do you need to do? You need to refuel the love tank in your marriage. Others of you are here, and I have a word for you. Others of you are here, you actually are scheming to burn the knot. And you're contemplating having an affair. Maybe in your thought, maybe it's already happening in action. And you're having an affair and nobody knows about it. But can I just say, I just felt I need to just say this straight to you. If you're in that place right now and you're not being faithful to your spouse, you have a choice. Confess or get caught. Confess or get caught. I've seen marriages bring up, by the grace of God, enough mercy for each other that after confession, things could be repaired. It doesn't happen quickly, it doesn't happen overnight, but it doesn't have to necessarily be the end of the story. What I know is the end of the story is when you get caught. I don't have much hope for you then. So I feel like the Holy Spirit wants to say to you, confess it. Don't keep living that lie. If that's what you're doing, if you're currently burning the knot, if that's you, you know who I'm talking to. If you're currently burning the knot, confess it. own up to it, okay? I want to look with you today at what Jesus had to say about, what he had to say to people who were struggling with the knot, because they either wanted to avoid it, or they wanted to burn it, or they were frustrated with it, or whatever. What Jesus had to say to people who had hurting marriages. If you have your message notes on your chair, or you can read along here on the screen, we are in Matthew chapter 19. Matthew chapter 19, it says this: Now when Jesus had finished saying these things, so he was just preaching somewhere, he went away from Galilee and entered the region of Judea beyond the Jordan. And large crowds were following him, and he healed them there. Pharisees came up to him and tested him. Pharisees are kind of religious people, okay? The experts on the scriptures and stuff. They came up to him and they tested him by asking, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? Let's pause right here. In that time, divorce was kind of a burning issue that people debated quite a bit. There were kind of people who were, maybe the Pharisees who were very strict, and they said, no, the Bible doesn't allow this. You can't ever divorce a spouse. And there were other people who were very tolerant with it. It's like, but the times have changed and all of that. And here they come to Jesus, and they want to test him, and they want to say, hey, Jesus, what's your stance on this issue? Should we go with the Bible, or should we go with the times? Does that sound familiar? Should we go with the Bible, or should we go with the times? And here's what Jesus said. He answered, have you not read? I love it when he always goes to the people who are paid to read the scriptures. And he asks, have you not read this? Have you not read that he who created them in the beginning made them male and female? He takes them right to the Genesis story in the first book of the Bible. And he's saying there's design in God's creativity when he created two genders, male, female. Okay, have you not read that he who created them, made them in the beginning, made them male and female, and said, therefore a man shall leave, circle that if you have message notes, circle that, shall leave his father and mother and hold fast, circle that as well, please. Come back to that in a moment. Leave and hold fast. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What God has joined together, let man not separate. In other words, he's saying marriage is God's idea, and do not untie what God has tied together. That's what he's saying. Now, this verse here, the two words I asked you to circle, they're really kind of marriage 101, okay? That Jesus is quoting from the book of Genesis. It's actually a direct quote, and there's these two verbs, and I think let's just focus on these two words, because if we get these right, guys, they're not very complicated. If you get these two words right, our marriages will be all right. I actually can promise you this. If you figure this out, how to do these two words, you'll be all right in your marriage, okay? The two words are let go and hold fast. Leave, hold fast. Let go of something, hold fast to something. Detach from something, attach to something. Depart from something, adhere to something, okay? Let go, hold fast. Every week I have a relationship goal for you. And the last one from this series, relationship goal number 5, is this one on the screen. Tighten the knot. Do we have this? Tighten the knot and cut all others loose, okay? Tighten the knot means hold fast. And the other ones, all of them, you cut them loose, okay? You let them go. All the others, forsaking all others, we say in our marriage vows. Okay? Cut them loose. Hold on to your spouse, let go of all the others. And again, as I said, if you figure out how to do this, your marriage will be okay. Let's look at this real quick. What does it mean to hold on? What does it mean to hold on fast to somebody? That's not always easy. Imagine with me a motorbike, and there's two people on a motorbike. Or how many of you ever used these e-scooters in Berlin? Anybody else? Nobody? Some of you? Come on. They're fun, guys. You should try it. They're fun. I heard they're fun if two people use them. It doesn't really work with me because I'm already sitting in the back of them because I'm tall. But yeah, imagine me. But these scooters or motorbike or jet ski or wherever there's two people on, you need to hold on to each other, especially when there is a turn. Right? When there is a turn, it's especially important that you hold on to each other. Otherwise, you might have a crash or somebody falls off or something. The same is true in relationships. You have to learn to hold on to each other, especially when life takes a bit of a turn. That's especially important when you need to hold on to each other. Otherwise, you might have a crash or you lose each other. We tend to lose each other. We tend to get disconnected from each other in marriages in the turns. Not when we ride smoothly, but when there's a turn. And a turn can be all kinds of things. A turn can be a teenage child. Whew, that's a turn, guys, okay? A turn can be something positive. A turn can be a promotion. Oh, but now you're working more hours and you're not here anymore. That's a turn, okay? A turn can be a midlife crisis. A turn can be menopause. A turn can be all kinds of things that suddenly like, oh, we're going another direction now. You need to learn how to hold on to each other when life takes a turn. The Jenny of 2023 is no longer the Jenny of 2007 that I married. That's a good thing in my case. And I'm glad I held on to her, okay? There's this saying that some people, they age like wine and others, they age like milk. Have you heard this? So Jenny is definitely aging like wine. I'm aging like milk. But hey, you can make cheese out of that, and cheese and wine goes well together, so hey. So yeah. So what I'm trying to say is the point is this, life is zigzag. Life is loads of turns and twists and all of that, and every marriage goes through changes. And these changes, they can test us and they change us, and that's why it's important to hold on to each other. The birth of a baby is such a turn, That actually can be quite a challenge for a marriage. Somebody having maybe a very successful startup business, that's a good thing, but it's also a turn for a marriage that can become a challenge. The death of a family member, that's a huge turn. That can actually wreck a marriage. Some couples don't survive that. The death of a parent or the death of a child. Yeah? Moving to another city, although I don't know why you would do that because you're in Berlin, the city of all cities. Don't you ever move anywhere else. Facing bankruptcy, discovering an addiction, all of these things are turns that, do you hear what I'm trying to say? Like they are a challenge. They can ruin our marriage. So anytime life twists, anytime there's a motorcycle turn, you have to learn how to hold on to each other. And some of you right now, you are in such a turn at the moment. Your marriage is like you're taking a turn. And I want to encourage you with this verse from Proverbs chapter 3, out of the Message translation. It says, don't lose your grip, meaning hold on tightly. Don't lose your grip on love and loyalty. Tie them around your neck, carve their initials on your heart. So that's the holding on bit. Let's talk about the letting go bit. He's saying, let go of all the other relationships. Let go of your parents. A man will leave his mother and his father. That's kind of just representative of all of the other relationships that we have in our lives, okay? The relationship to our parents may be the closest relationship we have outside of marriage. Now, does this mean that the boy is no longer a son? No, of course not. He's still a son, but the dynamic of the relationship has changed, okay? He's now no longer, his primary focus is now no longer about the parents, it's now about the spouse. And you need to kind of let go of that responsibility to fix your eyes on the responsibility you have with your spouse. Does that make sense? A little bit? Some men in particular struggle to do this. They struggle to let go of their responsibility they feel towards their parents. And they still try, with everything that they do, they still try to please their parents more than they try to focus on their bride. And sometimes the parents may even be dead already, but we're still trying to do things in honor of the parents. And this is what we do for our parents, and they're no longer even around. And the wife's thinking, hello, I'm supposed to be the most important person in your life. And that's the thing. Once you get married, you're saying, you are my spouse. You are now my best friend. Not the only friend, but my best friend. You are now the most important person in my life. Not the only person in my life, but the most important person in my life. You let go of, like, you don't give the significance and the importance to the others. You only give it to that one person. You look at me like I'm talking very confusing. Can you just nod today a little bit? It's like, yes, okay, thanks. Why members in the back? Often know you normally sit here, that's why it's... Okay. Let me ask you this question. Is there a relationship in your life that you are currently involved in that creates distance between you and your spouse? Is there a relationship right now in your life that you're involved in, some person that actually creates a distance between you and your spouse? Sometimes people ask me, is it okay for me if I'm married, but I still have a best friend of the opposite sex? I don't think that's a very good idea, okay? If you're asking for disaster, keep going on. But I don't recommend that at all, okay? In 1 Peter chapter 3, it says this, you husbands must give honor to your wives, meaning prioritize them, okay? Focus on them, honor them. Don't degrade them by giving somebody else that place of honor of your heart. Your husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. She may be weaker than you are, but she is your equal partner in God's gift of new life. Treat her as you should, so, catch this, so your prayers will not be hindered. Your prayers will not be hindered. Guys, did you know this? That your prayers can actually be hindered. They can be blocked by the heavens if you disregard your wife and you don't honor and treat her as you should. God says, I'll put my fingers in your ear. I don't even want to hear what you have to say if you don't know how to treat your wife. That's serious stuff, isn't it? And then he also says, as you live together, that doesn't just mean, we share the same apartment and the same bathroom and all of that. Actually, the word as you live together translated means to give maintenance to. To give maintenance to. Now, we like to maintain all kinds of things, don't we? We like to maintain our homes. We like to maintain our gardens if we have one. We like to maintain our technical devices. We're always updating the latest software and all that. We like to maintain our cars because we know it's important. What happens if you have a car and you don't maintain it? You don't check the oil from time to time. You don't check the tires from time to time. What happens if you have a car and you don't maintain it? You will break down eventually. The same is true in your relationships, in your marriage. If you don't maintain your marriage, you're waiting for disaster to happen. You will break down eventually. So maintain it now and don't wait for the wheels to fly all over you, okay? Figuratively speaking. Does that make sense a little bit? The letting go. Letting go, there's a song. And holding on. Some of you got that reference. Letting go of relationships and holding on tightly to the most important relationship in your life. Does that make sense a bit? Yeah. I want to just share with you today, there are 3 mindsets that we have sometimes. We all know this is what we're supposed to do, but there are 3 mindsets, they confuse us. It's almost like they divert the attention of actually letting go and prioritizing our number 1. 3 mindsets, if you want to just write them down. The first mindset that sneaks into our marriage is what I call the fixer mindset. Okay, some of you are guilty of this because you have this attitude of, I'm going to fix my husband. I'm going to change my wife. You have a bit of a Messiah complex in the sense of, I know she's not quite there yet, he's not quite there yet, but I'll fix her. I can sort him out. I'll teach him. I'll make him suffer until he learns. You have a fixer mentality, a fixer mindset. When 2 people are dating each other, there's a saying that we have is we say opposites attract. Have you heard this? Opposites attract. Where we say I'm so fascinated by this person I'm getting to know. He's so cute or she's so different. He does this so differently than how I would do it. It's opposites attract. We find this fascinating how people are different. Once you get married, it's no longer opposites attract. It's now opposites attack. Okay? It's wow, she's so different. He drives me nuts. Why can't she be like me? Why can't he be normal? And we drive each other crazy. And we come to a point in our relationship sometimes where we think I wish he would be a little bit more like me. Or even worse, I wish he would be a little bit more like her husband. Ooh. Yeah? I need to fix him. And sometimes there are things about our spouses that actually they rightly upset us. For example, if you say I wish he would prioritize me more, you're right to be upset about it. If you're saying, I wish her life wouldn't revolve around the kids only, you're right to be upset about this. If you're saying, I wish he wouldn't work so much, you're right to be upset about it. I wish she would control her temper more. You're right to be upset about it, okay? And then you come to this point and you're like, okay, something's got to change. I can't go on like this. This is driving me nuts to be with this person who just, yeah? Don't look at me like I'm the only one who has this in their marriage, okay? Like anybody else, like, come on. Sometimes, yeah. What we do then, unfortunately, the mistake we do in that moment is we start to criticize the other person for the thing that annoys us. And we start to nag, and we start to whine, and we start to complain. And it's like, wah, 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 in our marriages. And that kind of behavior can actually drive a wedge between you and your spouse, and you're no longer holding on to each other. You're drifting, okay? I want to show you a verse from the book of Proverbs that I think is quite powerful. Proverbs 25, it says, "It is better to live on the roof than share the house with a nagging wife." Can I get an amen from a bold man in the house? It is better to live on the roof than to share a house with a wife who's like, no, you always did this, and da. By the way, is it just me, or does this verse put a little bit of a twist on the story of David and Bathsheba? Can I just go there? Like, you know the story of David and Bathsheba. King David, who went to the roof, and there he spotted in the neighboring building a pretty woman who was not his wife, another man's wife, and he misused his power to get her to come to him. And today, what we would call that, we would say he raped her. I'm not saying there's any excuse for what David did, but I was wondering, what was David doing on that rooftop? Could it be, this is just a thought, could it be that Michal, his wife, was in the living room complaining, nagging, criticizing, and there has already been kind of a wedge in their marriage? Because if he would have been fixated and holding on to Michal, he would have never been tempted to get Bathsheba to sleep with him. It's an interpretation. Don't stone me for it. Okay, I'm not justifying what he did. Please hear me right. Okay, ladies right, ladies right, ladies right. Okay. But here's what I know. There's no verse in the Bible where it says that nagging or criticizing will ever change your husband's heart. You will not find that verse in the Bible. Why? Because you cannot change anybody. You cannot fix anybody. You may have a Messiah complex, but you cannot fix anybody. Like, it's not my job to fix my wife. It's my job to love her broken. But what I do know is, if maybe you want to write this down, only God can change our hearts. Amen? Amen? Thanks, bro. Only God can change our hearts. And so instead of trying to fix your spouse, I want to encourage you to start praying for your spouse. And have the courage to bring to God the very things that annoy you about your spouse. There's a verse in the book of James where it says, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful. And what it is, say it with me, it is effective. Nagging isn't effective. Prayer is effective. So obviously communicate with each other about the things that frustrate you. Listen to each other. Get counseling if you need to. But more importantly, pray for each other. Pray with each other. Pray to God that God will change the heart of your spouse. And pray to God that God will change your heart as well, because your heart is just as broken as the heart of your spouse. Don't judge her because she sins differently than you. Okay? Don't judge her because she sins differently than you. Your heart needs to be changed. But what I do know, and this is not a cliche, but a couple that prays together stays together. A couple that prays together stays together. If you want to hold on to each other, you need to learn how to pray with one another. Okay? Pray with one another. It's how you hold on. Prayer is how you win at home. The second mindset, you still with me? Second mindset, I know. Second mindset, I think, is the no biggie mindset. The no biggie mindset means, this little thing in my life is not really a big thing in my life. It's just a little thing in my life. I've noticed, guys, when I talk to couples or even watched marriages fall apart, I've noticed It is rarely the big problems alone that ruin a marriage. Rarely only a big problem like, oh, he cheated on her, or she had this massive conflict and like said all the wrong things. And it's rarely just the big things. Most marriages already break much earlier before the break up. Most marriages break much earlier, and there are these little things that are, we think they're no biggie. These little things that are unconfessed, and we don't acknowledge them. These little things, and they kind of start to grow and evolve, and it's like a snowball effect, and then eventually it escalates. There's these little things in our lives, and they become big things. Sin always grows in the dark. I'm going to write this down as well. Sin always grows, or sin grows best in the dark, when we think it's no big deal. I've got this. It's no big deal. And it grows and it grows, and then it explodes. Okay? In the Song of Songs, it's a book in the Old Testament, there's a powerful verse in a love story between Solomon and a Shulamite woman. And I just want to read this to you. It's a metaphor, but just let me read this to you on the screen. It says, catch for us the foxes, the little foxes. Oh, they're little, it's nothing. The little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. So the vineyard here is obviously a metaphor for a relationship, a fruitful, blooming, strong relationship, okay? And then there are these little foxes that apparently attack the vineyard. They are these foxes. What they do is they come at night, and at first they nibble on the fruit, and then they start to burrow beneath, and then they start to destroy the root, okay? And that's what little problems, what we think are little problems, that's what they do to our marriages. Like these secrets we still hold from the past. It's no big deal. I don't want to bring this into my marriage. But they still have power over you from the past. These uncontrolled desires that we have, these lustful fantasies that we have that we don't want to talk about, the critical spirit that is just there, the distrust that is there. Oh, it's no big deal. The secret spending, the secret addictions. And like all of these things is what they do is they destroy the fruit of our marriage, and they turn our vineyard into a wasteland. They turn this beautiful marriage into a wasteland if left unchecked, if left unconfessed. I want to ask you this question. What are you pretending is not a problem in your marriage right now? What are you pretending is not a problem in your marriage right now? This no biggie mindset, it will destroy, it will ruin your marriage, okay? You're allowing the little foxes to do as they please. And maybe you're saying, no, I see what you mean, but I'm managing it. I'm managing it. I got it under control. Can I just say something up straight to you? Sin is not something you manage. Sin is something you need to confess. Okay, you don't manage sin, you confess sin if you want to get rid of it. If you're managing it, it still owes you. It still owns you. Okay? And there's a big difference between that. That verse we read earlier from James, that's how it begins. Confess your sins, it says. Confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be what? You may be healed. Isn't that an amazing promise? Confess, pray, healing. So confession or honesty, transparency, that's another way we hold on to each other in our marriage. I got a third one. You still want to hear it? I know it's hot today, and well, okay, one more. The third mindset that I think can distract us from holding on and letting go is the 50-50 mindset. The 50-50 mindset is basically, well, it's our relationship. You give 50%, I give 50%, and together we do 100%. Okay? That sounds logical, that sounds kind of smart, sounds kind of clever, but it's a very dumb idea. Let me show you why. Okay? Whenever you think that marriage is 50-50, what you inevitably end up doing is you're keeping score. Like, well, you did this, but I still have to do this. Or I did this, now you owe me this. And you're always comparing. You're always keeping score. Like, well, I did 60 over here. You only did 40. Come on, how dare you? You got to... up your game, right? And you're always adding things up. You're always keeping score. And once you start keeping score in your marriage, both of you will lose. Both of you will lose. God never intended marriage to be a 50-50 thing. God wants it to be all in 100% devotion, 100% submission, 100% selflessness, 100% commitment. A half-hearted marriage will break your whole heart. A half-hearted marriage will end up breaking your whole heart. It's a whole heart disappointment. Some of you, let me say this as well. Some of you, you're very ambitious in your life, and you are saying, I can't really give 100% to my marriage because I'm already giving most of my energy and focus to my career and to my dreams. And I'm building here my reputation. I'm actually pursuing something here. And here's where I'm all in. And my wife or my family, they're really just getting the leftovers. Yeah, maybe that's where you're at. And I want to say there's no point in winning in your career if you're losing at home. There's no point in winning at your career if you're losing at home. And don't be surprised then if you get old and there's nobody sitting by your bedside because you've never invested in the home. Like, I don't care how successful you are in your career, but your career won't spoon feed you. Your career won't hold your hand. Your career won't clean your behind. Your career won't beat the chest of the doctor and say, this is my husband, this is my dad, do something. Your career won't do that for you. In the end, the only thing in your life that matters is not your career. The only earthly thing that matters is your family, your spouse, your kids. I'm saying this to you now because some of us, we've got our priorities completely off. And we think the purpose of life is to make more money and to pursue this career and have a name and have reputation. All of this will mean nothing at the end of your life, okay? There's loads of people who had great careers, but they died alone. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be that. In Ephesians 5:25, it says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Wow! How am I able to do that? Like, how did Christ love the church? Oh, okay, he gave 50% for her. No, that's not what it says, is it? He gave himself up for her. Wow, that's how Christ loved the church. And Paul is saying in our marriages should reflect the love of Jesus for the church. Jesus loved the church 100%. He did not cling to his rights to be equal with God. He let go of all of this to offer us his hand. Do you see, if you ever want to see the perfect example of someone who was able to let go, to hold on to something, look at Jesus. He showed to us, this is how you love, 100%, okay? And we ought to love each other the same. Some of you are sitting here and you're saying, yeah, I'm not sure if we would say in our marriage 50%. That's not really our vocabulary. But you do know you have a bit of a negotiated relationship with each other. You have your agreements and you have your deal, and it's basically you do your part and I do my part. Or better, you do your part, I do my part if you do your part. That's how it goes. I do my part if you do your part. And you're always kind of comparing. Have you done yours? Otherwise, I'm going to withhold the way I express my love and what I contribute. And all of that. It's like you're always comparing. You're always keeping score. What you have is a performance-based marriage, not an unconditional marriage. A performance-based marriage. I want to ask you, what would happen if both of you were to commit 100% unconditionally? And what will happen if you don't? Now, let me try to land this message here. I know this message for different one of us is maybe a bit weird to listen to because maybe you're here and you are single. And what I want to say to you, hey, maybe you figured this out in this message, like, hey, marriage isn't easy. So don't rush into it with the next best person. You want to make sure you find the right person to do this with because it is challenging, okay? Maybe you are here and you are divorced, as I said earlier, and this message has been tough to hear for you because maybe it just brought up stuff for you. And I want to say you're so welcome here at Mosaic. I'm glad you are here. We believe in second chances. We believe we have a God of restoration. That is the story of this church. That's why we have the name Mosaic, because God takes things that have been shattered into 1,000 pieces, and he knows how to put them back together to create something beautiful. That's the story of our church. That's the story, the testimony of many of the people here. And we are committed to walk with you through whatever mess you're still in so you can come to a place of healing, okay? And maybe you are here and you are married and you're saying, well, we're really struggling in our marriage. It is really challenging in our marriage right now. And I don't want to undermine the challenges that you're facing, but if you are thinking of walking out, if you are thinking of ending it, can I just please, can I just say, don't do it. Please, please, don't do it. With God, there is always hope. Guys, we got to believe this. I've seen the most crazy situation of what I thought was irreparable, and God brought things back together in marriages. I know he can restore broken things, okay? With God, there's always hope. Here's what Jesus said about God. He said, with God, all things are possible. All things are possible. I looked up the word all, and here's what that means. It means all, okay? So all of it is possible. Even when you think well, that's not possible. In my marriage, this can't be repaired. You're disagreeing with Jesus then, because Jesus says, no, all things are possible with God, okay? You can recover. You can come out of this turn where you're currently in. It's how long do we have to hold on to each other like this? Okay, you can recover. I want to say to you, by the grace of God, forgiveness is possible in marriages. Okay, even if you've been wronged badly, forgiveness is possible. You can be delivered. Your marriage can be resurrected. You can tighten the knot again by the grace of God. I have seen the grace of God do the most amazing miracles in people's lives. And I long to see it in your life as well. So as we wrap up this Sunday service here, I want to encourage you, as we sing one more song, I want to encourage you to look with me to Jesus. Jesus on the cross. He's our way maker. That's the song we're going to sing in a moment. The way maker, okay? Here's what Jesus has done for us on the cross. He reconciled us to the Father while we were sinners. While it seemed irreparable, he reconciled us. Jesus specializes in repairing relationships that are broken. Okay, he's genius at it. He's brilliant at it. He knows how to do things, guys. And he can turn tragedies into victories. He can turn dead things back to life. He can turn that which the enemy has meant for evil. He can turn it around, use it for good. So let me pray for you. Okay, Father, we thank you for being family with each other, where we can even talk about marriage. And it's easy to talk about it from up here, and much harder now to take a message like this and think about it. Okay, what does this mean now for our home? I want to pray, Father, that you would bring healing to our homes. I want to pray that you would heal broken marriages. I can just sense it. There's a lot of pain and disappointment in this room because of this very subject, either because of our own personal, the marriage that we're in, or because something in our extended family where things have fallen apart, or in our friendship circle. There's pain here. There's real pain here that we want to bring to you now. But we do want to pray in faith. Would you bring healing to our home? Would you bring healing to our marriages? Would you do what only you can do, because we've come to the end of our rope. We've come to the end of that knot here. It's okay, there's nothing left. Would you tighten that knot, Jesus? Do what only you can do. Pray that you would help us, Lord, to let go of anything that distracts us so we can hold on even more tightly to our one person, our spouse that we made a commitment to. Forgive us, Lord, whenever we've messed this up. Help us to be honest with each other and confess things that maybe need to be brought up and brought out into the open so they can be dealt with. I pray, Lord, that you now start to work in us, even as we sing, that you would stir our hearts, especially those who may be dealing with an overwhelming sense of pain right now, and maybe hopelessness and defeat. Lord, would you, as we sing this song, just infuse some hope in our hearts. I pray this in faith and in your name. Amen.